The next morning came too quickly. Guards opened Tay's cell door and dragged him out. They did not give him food or water. They wanted him weak for the demonstration, but Tay was not weak. Over the past 6 months, he had trained in secret. Every night, in the darkness of his cell, he did exercises. Push-ups, sit-ups, stretches. He kept his body ready. He kept his mind sharp. The aliens thought he was getting weaker, but he was actually getting stronger. The guards took him back to the classroom. It looked different today. The chairs were pushed to the sides. The center of the room was empty, like a fighting arena. The students sat around the edges, excited and loud. They could not wait to see the humans suffer. Vorn stood at the front, wearing his military uniform with all his medals. He looked proud and confident. "Welcome back," he said to his students. "Today, as promised, you will learn practical combat techniques. Our human subject will help us." Tay was pushed into the center of the room. His chains were removed. The students gasped. Was this safe? What if the human attacked? Vorn laughed. "Do not worry. The human cannot hurt you. He is weak and alone. He knows that if he tries anything, he will be killed immediately. Is that not right, human?" Tay said nothing. He rubbed his wrists where the chains had been. It felt good to be free of them, even if only for a moment. "Now," Vorn continued, "I need a volunteer. Who wants to demonstrate how to defeat a human in close combat?" Every hand in the room went up. Everyone wanted to be the one to beat the human. Vorn looked around and smiled. "Greth, come forward." A large alien stood up and walked to the center. Greth was from the Torvan species, like Brock, but bigger and meaner. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His skin was dark gray, almost black. His eyes were small and cruel. "This will be easy," Greth said, cracking his knuckles. All 4 hands made popping sounds. The students cheered. Greth was one of the strongest fighters in the academy. He had never lost a training match. Tay looked at Greth calmly. He was much smaller than the alien. He had only 2 arms. He had no claws, no armor, no weapons. By every measure, he should lose. But Tay had something the alien did not have. Experience. Real combat experience. Not in a classroom. Not in a training ring. But in actual wars where people died if they made mistakes. "The rules are simple," Vorn said. "Greth will attack. The human will try to defend. Greth, do not kill him. We need him alive for more demonstrations." "I will try not to," Greth said with a cruel smile. "But accidents happen." The students laughed. Vorn raised his hand. "Begin." Greth charged forward with all his speed. He was fast for his size, much faster than humans expected. His upper right arm swung in a powerful punch aimed at Tay's head. That punch could break bones. That punch could kill, but it never landed. Tay did not try to block. He did not try to run. Instead, he stepped to the side at the last moment. Just a small step, barely noticeable. Greth's fist passed through empty air. Then Tay moved. His hand shot out and hit Greth's throat. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to hurt. Greth's eyes went wide. He could not breathe. Before Greth could recover, Tay was behind him. He kicked the back of Greth's knee. The alien stumbled forward. Tay's elbow came down on the back of Greth's neck. Once, twice. Greth fell. 3 seconds. That was all it took. 3 seconds, and the strongest student in the academy was on the floor, gasping for air, unable to move. The room was silent. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. The weak human had defeated the mighty Torvan without even breaking a sweat. Tay stood over Greth's body, breathing normally. He had not even moved from the center of the room. They looked at Vorn with those calm eyes. He made mistakes, Tay said simply. He was strong, but strength is not everything. He was confident, but confidence is not skill. He thought I was weak, so he did not respect me. That was his biggest mistake. Vorn's face had changed. The pride was gone. Something else was there now. Fear? Anger? Both? Guards. Vorn shouted. Restrain him. 6 guards rushed forward with shock sticks. Tay did not resist. He let them grab his arms and push him to his knees. He let them put the chains back on. He had made his point. There was no need to fight anymore. The students were whispering to each other. They looked at Tay differently now. He was not just a weak human anymore. He was something else. Something dangerous. This proves nothing, Vorn said loudly, trying to regain control. The human used tricks. Dirty tricks. In a real fight with weapons, Greth would have won easily. But his words sounded hollow. Everyone had seen the truth. The human was not what they thought he was. Take him back to his cell, Vorn ordered. Tomorrow we will continue with weapons training. We will see how well the human does against blades and guns. The guards dragged Tay away. As he left, Tay looked back at the students one more time. His eyes found Vorn. Tomorrow, Tay said quietly, might be too late. Vorn frowned. What does that mean? But Tay said nothing more. The guards pulled him through the door, and he was gone in space. Hana watched her countdown timer. 2 hours left. Just 2 more hours. She had received a message from one of her scouts. The Academy's defense systems had been mapped. The guard rotations had been recorded. The escape routes had been planned. Everything was ready. Attention all units, Hana said over the communication channel. Final preparations. Check your weapons. Check your armor. Check your ships. In 2 hours, we go. Her team responded with quiet confidence. They had trained for this. They were ready. Hana thought about Tay. Was he okay? Was he still alive? The signal on her wrist was still green, so she knew he was alive. But alive was not the same as okay. She remembered the day Tay volunteered for this mission. She had tried to stop him. It was too dangerous, she said. There had to be another way. But Tay had just smiled. Someone has to do it, he said. And I am the best one for the job. You know that. She did know that. Tay was the best soldier she had ever known. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he never gave up. He never lost hope. No matter how bad things got, he always found a way. Just come back alive, she had told him. I will, he promised. And when I do, I will have information that will help us win this war. Trust me, she trusted him. She had always trusted him. And in 2 hours, she would bring him home. Back at the academy, Greth was being treated by doctors. His throat was bruised. His neck was damaged. He would survive, but he would remember this day for the rest of his life. The other students gathered around him, asking questions. What happened? How did he beat you? You are so much stronger than him. Greth shook his head slowly. His voice was rough and painful. He knew, Greth whispered. He knew exactly what I would do. Before I even moved, he knew. It was like fighting against someone who could see the future. The students looked at each other with worry. If Greth could not beat the human, who could? Vorn stood alone in the empty classroom. He stared at the spot where Tay had stood. Something was wrong. The human had been too confident, too calm, like he was not really a prisoner at all. Tomorrow might be too late, the human had said. What did that mean? Vorn felt something he had not felt in many years. Doubt. Were humans really as weak as he thought? Or had he been wrong all along? He did not know the answer, but he had a bad feeling that he was about to find out. Vorn walked to a large screen on the wall. He pressed some buttons and images appeared. The images showed human soldiers in battle. They were fighting against different alien species. The videos were taken from security cameras and military recordings. "Watch carefully," Vorn told his students. "This is how humans fight." The first video showed a group of human soldiers attacking a Corvan base. The Corvans were twice the size of humans, with thick armor-like skin and powerful muscles. They should have won easily, but the humans did not fight them directly. Instead, they used explosives to destroy the base walls. They used smoke to blind the Corvans. They used fast vehicles to hit and run. In 10 minutes, the Corvan base was destroyed. The humans disappeared before reinforcements arrived. "See?" Vorn said. "They do not fight with honor. They fight to win. They use their technology and their tricks. A Corvan warrior wants to face his enemy and fight. A human wants to kill his enemy and go home." The students watched with interest. Some of them started to understand. Humans were not strong, but they were smart. They were not brave, but they were effective. Tay watched the videos too. He remembered some of those battles. He had been there. He had helped plan them. But his face showed nothing. He was just a prisoner watching his captors talk about his people. The second video showed a space battle. Human ships against Nex Raider ships. The Nex Raiders had bigger ships with more guns. They should have won. But the human ships moved in strange patterns. They worked together like a single organism. They protected each other and attacked weak points. When a Nex ship was damaged, all the human ships would focus on it until it was destroyed. One by one, the Nex Raiders fell. "Human tactics," Vorn explained. "They call this teamwork. Humans are weak alone, but together they become stronger. They share information. They trust each other. They sacrifice themselves for their group. This is both their strength and their weakness." A student named Drax raised his hand. He was from the Marn species, tall and thin with blue skin and 3 eyes. "Instructor, if teamwork is their strength, then we should separate them. Fight them alone." "Correct," Vorn nodded. "When a human is alone, he is vulnerable. He becomes scared. He makes mistakes. That is why we captured this one." He pointed at Tay. "He has been alone for 6 months. No contact with other humans. He should be broken by now." Vorn walked over to Tay and looked at him closely. "Are you broken, human?" he asked. Tay looked back at him with empty eyes. He said nothing. "You see," Vorn told the students, "he does not even respond. 6 months of isolation has damaged his mind. He is like an empty shell now." But Tay was not empty. His mind was very full. He was thinking about the room. He had counted all the exits. 3 doors, 2 air vents, and 1 window. He had counted all the students. 217. He had memorized the guard positions. 4 guards at the main door. 2 at each side door. He had noticed that Vorn carried 3 weapons. A knife, a pistol, and a shock stick. Tay was not broken. He was preparing. In space, Hana was also preparing. She checked her ship's weapons one more time. Everything was ready. She looked at the timer on her screen. 3 hours until the rescue mission began. 6 months ago, Tay had volunteered for this mission. The human military needed information about the elite combat academy. They needed to know how aliens trained their soldiers. They needed to know their tactics and their weaknesses. Tay had let himself be captured. It was the most dangerous mission of his life. But it was also the most important. For 6 months, he had watched and listened and learned. He had seen how aliens thought about humans. He had seen their arrogance and their pride. He had seen their weaknesses too. Now, he had all the information the human military needed. He just had to survive long enough to deliver it. Back in the classroom, Vorn was showing more videos. These videos showed humans being killed by alien soldiers. The students cheered when they saw humans fall. They laughed when they saw humans run away. Humans feel pain very strongly, Vorn explained. When they are hurt, they scream. When they are scared, they cry. They are emotional creatures. This makes them easy to break. He walked to Tay and grabbed his injured arm, squeezing the cut he had made earlier. Blood dripped down Tay's arm. Pain shot through his body. But Tay did not scream. He did not cry. He just looked at Vorn with those same calm eyes. Vorn frowned. This was not the reaction he expected. Interesting, he said. This one has been trained to resist pain. Human special forces go through extreme training. They learn to control their fear and their pain. But even they have limits. He squeezed harder. Tay's face showed nothing. Inside, he was screaming. But outside, he was stunned. Finally, Vorn let go. He looked at Tay with something like respect. You are strong for a human, he admitted. But it does not matter. You will never leave this place. You will die here, alone, far from your people. Tay finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. Maybe, he said. Or maybe not. The students laughed. What could this weak human do? He was chained. He was surrounded. He was nothing. Vorn smiled. You still have hope? After 6 months? Your people are not coming for you. They do not even know where you are. You are forgotten. We will see, Tay said. Then he went silent again. Vorn shook his head and turned back to his students. You see? Humans are also stubborn. They do not give up easily. This can be annoying when you are trying to break them. But in the end, everyone breaks. Remember that. In space, Hana was not alone. 2 more ships had joined her, hiding behind the moon. Small ships with small crews, but they were the best. These were human special forces, the same unit Tay belonged to. They had been planning this rescue for months. Ready? Hana asked over the communication channel. Ready, came the replies. Remember the plan, Hana said. Fast and quiet. We get Tay and we get out. No unnecessary fighting. No heroes. Understood? Understood. Hana looked at the planet below. Somewhere down there, Tay was waiting. He did not know when they would come, but he knew they would come. Humans never left their people behind. That was not just a rule. It was who they were taught in the classroom. Vorn was finishing his lecture. Tomorrow, we will have a practical demonstration, he announced. Some of you will get to practice combat techniques on our human subject. You will learn how to disable a human quickly and efficiently. It will be educational. The students looked excited. A real human to fight. This was better than videos. Tay heard this and felt a small spark of worry. But then he remembered the signal he had received. Help was coming. He just had to survive until then. As the students left the room, Tay was taken back to his cell. The guards were rough with him, pushing him and laughing. They thought he was nothing. They thought he was weak. They were wrong. In his cell, Tay sat down and closed his eyes. He started to meditate, something he had learned years ago. It helped him stay calm. It helped him focus. It helped him survive. Tomorrow would be difficult. But tomorrow was not the end. Tay smiled in the darkness of his cell. The lesson was far from over. The room was cold and dark. It was built deep inside a mountain on a planet called Vorix. This planet was far from Earth, almost 300 light years away. The room was large, like a theater, with seats going up in rows. More than 200 young aliens sat in those seats. They were students at the Elite Combat Academy, the most famous military school in the galaxy. Today was a special day. Today, They would learn about humans. Instructor Vorn walked into the room. He was tall, almost 8 feet, with green scales covering his body. His eyes were yellow and cold. He had fought in many wars and killed many enemies. The students respected him. Some feared him. Vorn looked at the young faces staring at him and felt proud. These would be the next generation of warriors. Today, Vorn said in his deep voice, we study the most interesting species in the galaxy, humans. Some students laughed. Others looked confused. Humans were not known as great warriors. They were soft. They were weak. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. Many aliens thought humans were easy to kill. Vorn raised his hand for silence. I know what you think. You think humans are nothing. You think they are prey. But the Council wants us to study them. So we will study them. He pressed a button on his wrist device. The lights in the center of the room grew brighter. A platform rose from the floor. On that platform stood a human dot. The students leaned forward in their seats. Many had never seen a real human before. They had seen pictures and videos, but never one in person. The human was a male. He looked young, maybe 30 years old by human counting. He had black hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed calm. He was not very tall, maybe 5 feet and 9 inches. He was not very big either. He looked ordinary. He looked weak. His name was Tay. Stood on the platform with chains on his wrists and ankles. The chains were thick and made of strong metal. He wore simple gray clothes, like a prisoner. But his face showed no fear. He did not look worried. He did not look angry. He just stood there and watched everything with quiet eyes. This human was captured 6 months ago, Vorn explained. He was a soldier in the human military. A special forces soldier, they call it. He has been studied by our scientists. Today, he will help us learn. A student in the front row raised his hand. His name was Brock, and he was from a warrior species called the Torvans. They were large and strong, with 4 arms and thick gray skin. Instructor, Brock said, why do we need to study such a weak species? Look at him. I could break him with 1 hand. More students laughed. Vorn smiled a little. Good question, Vorn said. The answer is simple. In the last 50 years, humans have won more battles than any other young species. They have defeated the Corvan Empire. They have pushed back the Nex Raiders. They have even fought the Drell Confederation to a standstill. The room became quiet. Everyone knew about these wars. The Corvan Empire had 1 million soldiers. The Nex Raiders were the most feared pirates in 3 sectors. The Drell Confederation had been expanding for 1,000 years before humans stopped them. How? Asked another student, a female from the insect-like Rex species. How can such weak creatures win against stronger enemies? That is what we will learn today, Vorn said. He walked closer to the platform where Tay stood. Let us start with the basics. Human physical characteristics. He pointed at Tay like he was pointing at an object. First, their skin. Human skin is soft. It has no scales, no armor, no protection. A simple blade can cut through it easily. Vorn pulled out a small knife. He walked up to Tay and made a small cut on his arm. Blood came out, red and warm. Tay did not move. He did not make a sound. He just watched Vorn with those calm eyes. See? Vorn said to his students. They bleed easily. They damage easily. Their bodies are fragile. He walked around Tay slowly. Second, their bones. Human bones are not very strong. They break under pressure. A Torvan could crush a human skull with 1 hand. A Rex could cut through human bone with their claws. The students nodded. This was good information. This was useful. Third, Vorn continued, their senses. Humans have weak senses. They cannot see in the dark like we can. They cannot hear high sounds like the Vrex. They cannot smell danger like the Torvins. In many ways, they are blind and deaf compared to us. Tay continued to stand still. His eyes moved slowly around the room. He looked at each student, one by one, as if he was counting them. As if he was remembering their faces. Nobody noticed this. Fourth, their speed. Humans are slow. They cannot run as fast as most species. They cannot react as quickly. In a fair fight, a human will always be slower than his enemy. Vorn stopped in front of Tay and looked at him. For a moment, their eyes met. Something passed between them, but Vorn did not understand what it was. So, Vorn said, turning back to his students, "You might ask again, how do humans win?" The answer is that humans do not fight fair. They use tricks. They use weapons. They use technology. They attack when you are sleeping. They poison your water. They blow up your ships from far away. Humans are not warriors. They are survivors. They do whatever it takes to win. He paused to let his words sink in. And that, Vorn said, is why we study them. Not because they are strong, but because they are dangerous. A cornered human is more dangerous than a hunting pack of Torvins. Never forget this. Far above the planet, hidden behind a small moon, a ship floated in the darkness of space. It was a human ship, small and fast, designed to be invisible to sensors. Inside the ship, a woman sat at the controls. Her name was Hana. She had long black hair tied back and sharp eyes that watched the screens in front of her dot. She had been waiting for 6 months. 6 months of hiding. 6 months of planning. 6 months of watching. Today, the waiting would end. She looked at a small device on her wrist. A green light blinked slowly. That light meant Tay was alive. That light meant the plan was working. Hannah smiled. She opened a communication channel, encrypted and hidden. "I see you, Tay," she whispered. "Just hold on a little longer. We're coming." Back in the classroom, Tay felt a tiny vibration on his ankle. A signal. He did not smile. He did not react. But inside he felt something warm. Hope. The lesson continued. But the real lesson was just beginning. Vorn stood frozen. His gun was still pointed at Tay, but his hands were shaking. How could this be happening? This was his academy, his territory. His students had learned to kill humans here for years. And now a human was standing in front of him, calm and confident, offering to teach him a lesson. "You cannot win," Vorn said, but his voice was not so sure anymore. "I already have," Tay replied. "Your guards are defeated. Your communications are down. Your power is cut. And your best students could not stop me. What lesson do you want to learn from that?" Vorn's fingers squeezed the trigger. The gun fired, but Tay was not there anymore. He had moved the moment he saw Vorn's finger move. Humans were slow. Vorn had taught his students. Humans had weak reflexes. But that was not true. Humans could be fast when they needed to be. Humans could react when their lives depended on it. Tay was beside Vorn now. His hand hit Vorn's wrist, and the gun flew away. Then Tay's elbow came up and struck Vorn in the face. The big alien stumbled back, green blood running from his nose. "First lesson," Tay said. "Speed is not about how fast you move. It is about when you move. I watched your trigger finger. I knew when you would shoot before you did." Vorn roared and charged at Tay with his claws extended. He was bigger and stronger. In a straight fight, he should win. But Tay did not fight straight. He stepped aside and let Vorn's weight carry him forward. Then Tay kicked the back of Vorn's leg. The alien fell to one knee. "Second lesson," Tay continued. "Strength means nothing if you cannot hit your target. You are powerful, but you are predictable. I know what you will do before you do it." Vorn swung his arm backward, trying to hit Tay with his elbow. Tay ducked and punched Vorn in the ribs. Once, twice, 3 times. Third lesson. Humans are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We are not the toughest. But we adapt. We learn. We survive. For 1,000,000 years, we have been fighting things bigger and stronger than us. We learned how to win. Vorn was on the ground now, gasping for breath. His ribs were broken. His face was bleeding. He looked up at Tay with confusion and fear. "How?" he asked. "How can a weak species do this?" Tay knelt down to look Vorn in the eyes. "Because we are not weak," he said softly. "We look weak. We act weak. We let our enemies think they have already won. And then, when the time is right, we show them the truth. That is the real lesson. That is how humans fight." He stood up and turned to Hannah. "We are done here. Let us go." The human soldiers moved quickly. They loaded into their ships. The engines powered up. In minutes, they would be gone. But before Tay got on the ship, he stopped and looked back at the academy. Students and teachers were gathering at the doors, watching in shock. Their great military school had been invaded and humiliated by a small group of humans. "Remember this day," Tay shouted to them. "Remember what you saw. And the next time you think about attacking humans, remember that we will always come for our people. We will never leave anyone behind. And we will never give up." Then he turned and walked onto Hannah's ship. The door closed behind him. The ships rose into the air. They flew through the hole in the ceiling and up into the night sky. In seconds, they were in space. In minutes, they were gone. In the academy, silence filled the halls. Vorn was carried to the medical center. Students stood around, talking in whispers. Nobody could believe what had happened, but everyone remembered Tay's words. And everyone remembered the message carved on the classroom wall. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Underestimate us once. 3 days later, Tay was back on a human ship, far from Vorax. He sat in the meeting room with Hannah and several military commanders. They were reviewing the information he had collected. "This is incredible," said one commander, a tall woman named Sue. "Their entire training program, their tactics, their weaknesses. This will change everything." "It was a dangerous mission," said another commander, an older man named Day. "We almost lost you many times." Tay shrugged. "It was necessary. Now we know how they think. We know what they teach their soldiers. And we know how to beat them." Hannah smiled at him. "You did well, Tay. Really well." He smiled back. "I had good support. You came for me." "I never doubted that." "Of course we came," Hannah said. "We are family." That is what humans do. The meeting continued with plans and strategies. The information Tay had gathered would help them win many battles. It would save many lives. The 6 months of suffering had been worth it. But Tay was thinking about something else. He was thinking about the students at the academy. He was thinking about the fear in their eyes when they saw what humans could really do. He was thinking about Vorn, lying on the floor, asking how a weak species could defeat him. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were family, and they would never stop fighting. Back on Vorax, the Elite Combat Academy changed its curriculum. The lesson called How to Slay a Human was removed from the schedule. In its place, a new lesson was added. How to survive against a human. The teachers told their students about Tay. They told them about how he had pretended to be weak, how he had waited and planned, how he had defeated their best fighter in 3 seconds, how he had taken down their greatest instructor without using a weapon. Humans are dangerous. the new lesson began. Not because they are strong, but because they never give up. They never stop fighting, and they never forget their people. If you capture a human, expect their friends to come for them. If you fight a human, expect them to use every trick they know. If you underestimate a human, expect to die. The students listened carefully. They did not laugh anymore when humans were mentioned. They did not think humans were easy prey. They had learned their lesson. Far away, on a human ship traveling through space, Tay looked out at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. So many species. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of enemies who wanted to hurt humanity, but humanity would survive. It always had. From the caves of Earth to the stars of the galaxy, humans had faced every challenge and overcome every obstacle. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, but because they never gave up. Hannah came to stand beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "The future," Tay said. "The wars we will fight. The challenges we will face." Worried? He shook his head. "No, because whatever happens, we will face it together. That is our greatest strength. We stand by each other. We fight for each other. We would die for each other." Hannah nodded. "That is what makes us human." "Yes," Tay agreed. "That is what makes us human." They stood together, watching the stars, ready for whatever came next. The lesson was over, but the story of humanity was just beginning. Night came to the academy. Most of the students were sleeping. The guards walked their usual routes, bored and tired. Nothing ever happened here. This was a safe place, deep inside a mountain on a planet far from any enemy. Why would anyone attack? But tonight was different. Tay sat in his cell, waiting. He watched the small device hidden under his skin, near his ankle. The device was tiny, smaller than a grain of rice. The aliens had never found it. Their scanners looked for metal and electronics, but this device was made of organic materials. It was invisible to their technology. The device started to blink. Red, 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 then green. The signal. Tay smiled. It was time. He stood up and walked to the door of his cell. The chains on his wrists and ankles hung loose. They had never been locked. For 6 months, Tay had pretended to be a prisoner. He had worn the chains and acted weak. But every night, he had practiced opening them. The locks were simple for someone with his training. He opened his cell door. It was not locked either. Why would the aliens lock the door? The chains were enough, they thought. And even if the human escaped his cell, where would he go? He was deep inside a mountain, surrounded by enemies. But Tay had a plan. He always had a plan. He moved silently through the dark hallways. His eyes adjusted quickly. Humans could not see as well as some aliens, but they could see enough. He had memorized the layout of this place over 6 months. He knew every corner, every camera, every guard position. He avoided the cameras by staying in their blind spots. He avoided the guards by timing his movements. He was a shadow moving through the night. His first target was the communication room. He needed to disable the alarms before Hannah arrived. If the Academy sent out a distress signal, enemy ships would come. The rescue would fail. The communication room had 2 guards. They were playing a game on a computer screen, not paying attention. Tay watched them for a moment, then moved. The first guard felt a hand on his mouth, and then nothing. He was unconscious before he could make a sound. The second guard turned and saw Tay, but it was too late. Tay's fist hit him in the temple. He fell without a word. Tay worked quickly on the communication equipment. He did not destroy it. That would be too obvious. Instead, he made small changes. He moved wires and adjusted settings. When the aliens tried to send a message, it would fail. They would think it was a technical problem, not sabotage. Task 1 complete. His second target was the power room. He found it on the lower level. More guards, more cameras. But Tay was patient. He waited for the right moment, then struck. 3 guards fell in 10 seconds. None of them raised an alarm. In the power room, Tay planted a small device on the main generator. The device was another piece of hidden technology given to him before the mission. In 30 minutes, it would activate and cut all power to the academy. The lights would go out. The doors would unlock. Chaos would follow. Task 2 complete. Tay checked the time. 20 minutes until the power cut. He needed to get to the main hangar where the ships were kept. That was where Hannah would land. But first, he had one more thing to do. He returned to the classroom where Vorn had taught his lesson. The room was empty and dark. Tay walked to the wall and pulled out a small knife he had taken from a guard. On the wall, he began to carve letters. Human letters. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Underestimate us once. He wanted them to remember. He wanted them to know that this was not just a rescue mission. This was a message. High above the planet, Hannah began her approach. Her ship dove through the atmosphere, fast and silent. Heat shields protected the hull. Stealth technology hid her from sensors. She was invisible. Behind her, 2 more ships followed. 12 soldiers total, all special forces, all ready to fight and die for their friend. Beginning landing approach, Hannah said into her communicator. Tay, if you can hear this, we are coming. Tay could not hear her. His hidden device was for location and basic signals only, not communication. But he knew she was coming. He could feel it. He reached the main hangar and hid in the shadows. The hangar was huge, with space for 20 ships. Most of the ships were small fighters and transport vessels. There were also guards, maybe 15 of them standing around and talking. 15 guards. 12 soldiers coming to help. Tay made the math in his head. Not great odds, but not impossible either. Then the lights went out. The device he had planted worked perfectly. The entire academy went dark. Emergency lights came on, but they were dim and red. Alarms should have sounded, but the alarms were connected to the communication system that Tay had broken. The guards in the hangar looked around with confusion. What was happening? Was this a drill? A malfunction? Then the roof exploded. Hannah's ship came through the ceiling like a bullet, dust and metal falling everywhere. The ship landed hard and fast. Before the guards could react, the doors opened and soldiers poured out. Human soldiers. Real human soldiers, with armor and weapons and training. The fight lasted less than a minute. The aliens were confused and scared. They did not expect an attack. They did not expect humans to come here, to this safe place, this protected academy. But here they were. Tay stepped out of the shadows and walked toward Hannah's ship. She saw him and ran to meet him. Tay, she shouted. You are alive. I told you I would be, he said with a small smile. She hugged him quickly, then pulled back. We need to move. They will send reinforcements soon. The communications are down, Tay said. They cannot call for help. And the power will be out for another hour. We have time. Hannah nodded. Good work. You got the information we needed? All of it. Their training methods. Their tactics. Their weaknesses. Everything. Then let us go home. But before they could move, a door opened at the side of the hangar. Vorn stepped through, holding a large gun. His yellow eyes were filled with rage. You! He shouted at Tay. You planned this. All along, you planned this. Tay turned to face him. Yes, from the beginning. The chains were never locked, Vorn said, realizing the truth. You could have escaped any time. Any time, Tay agreed. But I needed to wait. I needed to learn. I needed to see how you teach your soldiers about us. Now I know. Vorn raised his gun. You will not leave here alive. Tay did not move. He just looked at Vorn with those same calm eyes. You taught your students that humans are weak, Tay said. You taught them that we are easy to kill. You taught them wrong. And now I will teach you the truth. Hannah and the other soldiers raised their weapons, but Tay held up his hand to stop them. This is between us, he said. Then he smiled at Vorn. You wanted a lesson? Now, want to learn the real way humans fight? Vorn's finger tightened on the trigger. But something in Tay's eyes made him hesitate. For the first time in his life, Vorn was afraid.